Whenever we talk about the UI automation, be it a classic experience or a modern experience, both of them has something which is called targeting methods. As an RPA developer, it is important for us to know that what are the various targeting methods available and when to use what. This video is in the second video of the design experiences where we are going to focus on the targeting methods. In case you are coming to the channel for the first time and you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel to get the latest updates. So let's get started. In the first video of the series, we have seen what exactly are the design experiences, what is the difference between classic and the modern, how do you differentiate and how do you switch. This is the second video which is in continuation of the first video. So in case you are not aware of any of this, I would request you to just watch the previous video. The link of the video would be available in the description. Today in this video, we are going to talk about the targeting methods and the approaches. When I say the targeting method and approaches, it simply means if I have to do a user interface automation, which is also known as UI automation, there are several ways and several approaches which are available in UiPath. So depending on your scenario and your situation, you have to use the correct method and the correct approach. But to use the correct method and the correct approach, first of all, you should be aware of what are the methods and what are the approaches which are available, right? So on that note, this would be our agenda for today. We are going to see what are the various targeting methods which are available. Selector, selector with wildcards, anchor base, fuzzy selector, image automation and computer visions, right? All of these are the targeting methods and approaches which has different benefits, different limitation, and they fit in different condition, right? So as a developer, you should be very much aware of all the techniques and when to use what. Okay, so first thing first, what exactly is a UI automation, right? We have discussed in the previous slide. This is a quick recap. Whenever as a robot, we are supposed to do an automation which involves keyboard and the mouse, where we have to interact with a user interface. That thing is known as UI automation, right? UI automation simply means to mimic the human actions and the interaction which the UI element does, right? Taking a simple example, if as a human user, you are opening a browser, you are navigating to a URL, you are inputting some data and you are generating the output, all of these actions would be mimicked by the robot for you. And if I have to do such automation which involves UI and we are mimicking the human action, we call it as a UI automation, right? There are two design experiences, guys. One is classic and one is modern, which we have already discussed in the previous video, right? Now, whenever I have to do a user interface automation, we have multiple different ways to automate, right? So the first way is the selectors, right? Now talking of selectors, selectors are automatically generated every time I interact with a graphical user interface, right? It is automatically generated by UiPath Studio. You can refer selector as an address of the element, right? Selectors are made up of nodes, right? And how does it look and how does it actually auto generate? Let's see that in Studio. Okay, I am back into my UiPath Studio. I'll go here and I'll create a new process. I'll call this as target methods and I'll say create. This project I have built on the classic design, right? So I hope the people who are following, you could understand that this we have now created in the classic design. Okay. Now the first topic here which we are talking about is the selectors, right? So let's take an example. I have this notepad, okay? So if as a user I have to type something, I use my keyboard and I type here, right? Hello. If I have to click something, I am using my mouse and I am clicking on these buttons like this, right? Now I have a requirement where I want to do the same thing with automation. or with a robot. That means that I have to use something which is called selectors, right? And for using selectors, we have UI automation activities, right? So when I say UI, I simply means user interface, right? Now, first thing first, whenever you are working on a project which has to deal with user automation, you need to have this package installed. UiPath.uiautomation.activity should be available on your dependencies. If this is not available, guys, you won't see the UI automation activities, right? So I hope now it makes sense why it is UI automation. In case this is not coming, you simply go to the dependencies, right click, manage, right? And you just type here UiPath.uiautomation activities and click on install. Okay, and that should give you this UiAutomation.uiautomation activities, right? Now my job is simple. I have to come here and I have to click on this file button, right? And it should open this menu which you are looking on the screen, right? But if I have to click, so I go to the activities and I search for here click, right? You would notice that I am getting it in the UI automation element mouse and click. I'll drag and drop this click activity here. Okay, I'll minimize this. Now this click activity as of now does not know where do I click, which simply means that this activity does not have the selector. Where can I find this? If I click on this, I go to the properties. You would notice that inside the target we have a section which is called selector. And if you see here the selector, I just open, the selector is blank, right? Which means that this click activity does not know where to click, which interface to click. Should I click on this PowerPoint, on this Chrome, on this notepad, or on this file icon, right? I need to give the address of the element, right? Remember, whenever we are talking about the selector, we talked that it is automatically generated, right? So just keep an eye on this one. It is absolutely blank, right? I just open this notepad here. I say indicate on screen and I simply point it to the button, right? Which is this one. I point it to the file button. And now what is happening? If I go to the properties, you would notice here that the selector is automatically generated, right? I didn't create this selector, right? This is automatically generated. And not only this, it has got the exact address of the item, or I would say exact address that what exactly I need to do. So as a human, if you try to read this, right, it is telling me that, hey, I have to go to a notepad.exe, right? That is the exe name. There is a notepad whose name is untitled notepad. There is a menu bar and I have to click on the file button. So this is automatically generated by UiPath for me, right? And this is what we call as a selector, right? Where UiPath automatically generate the address of the element. But as a developer, you need to know that this selector might not be always valid, right? So there are other UI element methods which we need to use, but the first thing is, what is selector? How does it generate, right? Now if I just say okay, I go here and I say run the file, right? The process is compiling, right? The automation would fire up and it should click on that file button, and I can see that my file menu was open, right? So that means whatever address I have given to this activity here in the properties is working perfectly, right? So this is what a selector does. Coming back to the presentation, right? So this was about the selector. The last line is called the actual identifier and the first line is called the root node, right? So in this example, if I just ask you guys that what would this selector do, right? We can see that there is a notepad whose title is untitled notepad, and this is a selector for the text editor, right? So if I have to do something on the editable text, I generate this selector and this is generated by UiPath, right? Now this is working perfectly. We just generate the selector, we do the automation, the robot work perfectly. But does it always suffice our requirement? The answer is no, right? In selectors, you have to work on a lot of things, right? The auto generated selector by UiPath is not always reliable. and as a developer you need to change it, right? Now what does that mean? Let's see that with the help of an example. Okay, I'll go back to this notepad. I'll just do file and I'll do save as, right? I'll just trying to save this with a name which is called ABC. Now my notepad is ABC notepad, right? So this is the notepad. In my automation, I have to click on that file button, right? If I go here and I say edit the selector, you would notice that I was instructing the robot to go to the notepad.exe, which is open. Then I am asking that you would find a notepad whose title is untitled-notepad. But if I go here, my notepad is not untitled, right? The name of the notepad is changed. It is now ABC-notepad. So that's why this guy is saying that, hey, I am not able to validate and your selector is not working. The auto-generated selector is not working. So if I run this automation, this would go into an error, right? So that is where we need to understand that we can introduce wildcard in the selectors. So this is to generate dynamically changing attributes inside a selectors, right? In UiPath, we have two kind of wildcards. One is called the asterisk and the other is called the question mark. Okay. You need to understand that in terms of wildcards, there are only two wildcards. This is a very common interview question. What are the wildcards? You only have two wildcards. One is question mark and the other is the asterisk. Question mark replaces a single character. The asterisk replaces 0 or more characters. Coming back to my automation now. If you see here, it is ABC-notepad. Okay, but if I see here, it's untitled-notepad. If I make it to ABC notepad and I say validate, this thing says that yes, now I am able to find the ABC notepad. I can check here by using this highlight and it says that, hey, this is where I am able to find your element, right? As you can see, the file is highlighted in the red, right? Now let's say after some day, what happens? Somebody saves this notepad as ABCDEF. Now if I again validate, now as soon as I change the notepad name, you would notice that this notepad is, the selector is not able to find this note. It is saying that the address you told me was ABC and your notepad is ABCDEF-notepad. So address mismatch, selector not working, right? Now this is where you can introduce a wildcard. A wildcard means if I go here and I say that after the ABC, you ignore whatever you have, right? I'm telling UiPath, you just match ABC and after ABC, I don't worry even if it is a DEF, XYZ, ZZZ, YYY, I don't carry. I don't worry at all, right? So I just put a star and I say validate and now you could see that it able to again highlight, right? So this star, whatever I have introduced, is called a wildcard. Now this was the first wildcard which I have introduced, ABC, which means that just match for ABC, match for -notepad, and I don't worry this star, right? So this star will replace anything. So that is the star. Now if I talk about the other one, let's say somebody goes here and now they change it to like this, ABCDX. Okay, so ABC will match and this star will take care of the DX, right? Now one way is obvious here to just do it like this, ABCDX validate, and it says that yes, ABCDX is matching, right? But sometime you might have a requirement where you say that, hey, this X I am not sure. Sometime it can be X, sometime it can be Y, sometime it can be Z, right? So ABCDX is working. But if I change this to, let's say, ABCDY, now this thing is not working, right? It says that ABCDX is working, right? So I can always put a star, but when you only have a single character, right, which is changing x, y, z, you can always use something which is called question mark. Now what does this question mark do? It will say that I will check ABCD, then I'll only ignore one character. Question mark strictly means one character. If I say validate and highlight, you would notice that it's working for dy as well. If I put dz, then also it would work. So I hope that is clear. Whenever we are working with selectors, you always has a requirement to make the selector dynamic, right? And to make the selector dynamic, we can use the asterisk mark and the question. The asterisk replaces 0 or more character, whereas the question mark replaces only a single character, right? So as you can see here, this I have used a asterisk mark. This is going to replace 0 or more characters, whereas the question mark is only going to replace a single character, right? So that is how we use the wildcards in selectors. Okay. Now guys, for those of you who are looking this channel for the first time, we have a dedicated playlist where we are explaining all the basics of selectors, including the wildcards, property explorer, set web, anchor base, relative selector, find children. A lot of intricacies are there whenever you work with the selectors, right? We have a complete dedicated playlist. So today I just talked about the high level, right? So detailed playlist is available in the description, but the keynote here is you need to understand that whenever we do UI automation, we have selectors and then we have selectors with wildcards. Okay. And you have a playlist always for your reference. Moving forward, next we have something which is called a fuzzy selectors, right? Now, when I was using the wildcards, it is very strict, which means that it is only going to replace the single character, or it is always going to replace the complete part of the sentence. However, sometimes you would fall in a requirement where the top level value of the subject is dynamically changing, right? For example, the title of the web page, or somebody has done a spelling mistake, right? Sometimes the spelling is different, the other time that spelling is different. As a human, you are able to identify, but how do you teach the same thing to the robot? So for this regard, the selectors fuzzy search capabilities enable you to locate the string based on the patterns. You can actually identify and you can teach the robot to work with pattern inside the selectors, right? How does that look and how does that work? We will show in a demo. But before that, whenever you are using the fuzzy selectors, you need to understand that you have got two options, right? The first option is called matching, and the second option is called the fuzzy level, right? So this is a tag name. If you say that matching is equal to fuzzy, that means that you are instructing the UiPath robot to determine this thing, this tag name, right? When I say this tag name, this can be anything that I'll show in the example, but you need to instruct the robot that I want you to do the fuzzy matching. Now when you say that I am doing the fuzzy matching, UiPath Studio will ask me how much close, what is the threshold for the target. So that threshold, that target is this numerical value, which has a range from 0 to 1. Closer to 0, it means that it is having a lower similarity. Closer to 1, it means that it has the higher similarity, right? So these are the two attributes, guys, which you need to remember. One is the matching is equal to fuzzy, and then when you say fuzzy, you need to also say that what is the fuzzy level. Okay. To take an example, let's say I am writing an automation. Okay, just focus on this part. I have a notepad application. I'll show this as example also, right? I have a notepad and the name of the notepad is sample notepad, right? The idea was to have a notepad whose name is sample notepad. But somebody did a spelling mistake. As a human, I can see that yes, this should be sample notepad. But if I create a selector of sample notepad, SAMPLE, right? This would break because it is SMAP. the spelling is mistake, right? But I don't know, right? The spelling mistake can be in the P, it can be in the L, it can be in the E, right? One approach is definitely make this as question mark, right? But I don't know which part has the spelling mistake. The other option is to omit everything and put a star, right? Which might not work in every place. So that's where you have to use the fuzzy selectors, right? Let's see that in action. Okay. So I have this notepad. I'll go here and I'll say save as, right? Let's save this as sample notepad, right? I'll go here and I say indicate and I'll just point it to this one. Okay. Now if I see the selector, you would notice that sample 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 notepad is exactly matching, right? Now someday what happens that somebody did a spelling mistake. Instead of sample, they make it to SMAPPLE, right? The spelling is mistake, right? If I just validate this, it says that, hey, I'm not able to find. Now you would say that, Mukesh, you can always use this here as a question, you can put this as a star, right? That we always can do, right? But that's not always the scenario, right? I don't know, right, where the spelling mistake is done. Is it done at this place? It is in the spelling of notepad. And to put a star also is not always recommended, right? What can I do, right? The solution to such cases is called the fuzzy selector. If you go back to the presentation, so this is the same thing, right? We have a spelling mistake in the notepad. This is a selector which it's not able to find, right? And I told you guys that we have to remember two attributes. One was matching and one is the fuzzy level, right? Now, the other two lines, the control automation ID and the control file name, right? There is no change here. The only change is in the notepad title, right? So if I ask you guys, which is the attribute which is having a problem, the problematic attribute is the title. So I just put here matching, right? If you remember, we told here, right? Matching, and then you have to say the tag name, which is the tag which is causing the problem. Matching colon the tag name. Matching colon, which is the tag which is causing the problem? Title. So that's why it is written here title, right? So matching colon title. So this is the syntax, right? Matching colon title is equal to fuzzy. See, matching colon, which is the tag which is causing the problem? Title, and it is equal to fuzzy. And then you have to say fuzzy level colon, you have to again specify the tag and give the value which should be between 0 to 1. So what we have done here is, after this title sample notepad, we have added this thing, matching title fuzzy, which means that match the title. Why do I have written title? Because this is where the problem lies, is equal to fuzzy, and the fuzzy level is 0.8. I am saying that 80% match. If you are able to find, just consider it. Okay, so let's try to do the same thing in the automation now. This is our selector which is not working, sample notepad. Its spelling is mistake, it is sample, and here the spelling is mistake, right? So after this you just have to add this thing, matching title is equal to fuzzy, and fuzzy title is equal to 0.8, right? Now if you see here, it is sample, here it is spelling is mistake. I just say validate, and this is green. I can say highlight, and you can see that it is correctly indicating the file button in the notepad, right? Not only this, if I just change this to something else, right? Let's say I just say that sample, and I forgot to instead of O, I just forgot the O and I put a P, right? And I say save. Now still you can see I have make a P here. I say validate, and it is still able to find this notepad with the correct name, right? So I know the correct name is sample notepad, which I have put here. But if I am doing a spelling mistake here, still it is working, because I have told that this name, right, sample notepad, where it is coming in the title. So I say that the title should be matched as fuzzy, and the fuzzy level for the title should be 0.8, right? 1 means exactly 1 to 1 match. So if I just change it to 1, which means that it is now closer. So if I say validate, it would not work, right? Because you are saying that 100% match with this thing, right? That's not a 100% match, right? So you have to adjust this number as per your requirement. I say again 0.8, which is 80%, highlight, and this thing works, right? So this is how the fuzzy work. Okay, I hope you understand. If that is the case, just comment down fuzzy selectors so that I understand that you are following along with me. Okay, I'll wait for your fuzzy comment, and let's go back to the presentation. Okay, so this was about the fuzzy selector. I quickly have one more example for you, right? So this is from W3 schools, right? So let's say I am writing an automation, right, where I have to go to W3 schools and I have to search on something which is called a color picker, right? But the attribute name is misspelled, right? Somebody misspelled it while correcting, and so somebody misspelled and it is specified as color cur, right? Now the correct spelling is color picker and the wrong spelling is color cur. Now which is the attribute name here? The attribute name is AA name. So all you do is when you are creating the selector, you would say that matching of AA name. Why I am writing AA name here? Because this is where the problem lies. So AA name is equal to fuzzy. Then you have to write fuzzy level colon AA name and 0.4, right? Because color picker and clorker are very far away. So that's why 40% matching. If I increase it to 80, it won't work, right? 0 would match everything. 1 means exact 1-to-1 match, right? So this is how you play with this number, and this is just a second example. But the thing which you need to remember is this guy, right? Matching colon fuzzy, fuzzy level. This is the syntax. Okay, and you have to put the attribute which is your trouble causing attribute. So that was about the fuzzy selectors. Okay, the next approach, whenever we are doing the UI automation, UiPath has something which is called the anchor base. Now anchor base simply means that you have to type something on an automation where the selector is changing, but you have an element which is fixed at some place. So that is where you can use an anchor activity, right? How does it work? I'll quickly show that with the help of example. I have a website here where I have to type something on the first name, right? So if I click on submit, you would notice that the position of the first name is always changing. Sometime it is coming here, sometime it is coming here, sometime it is coming at the top, right? So if I generate a selector for this thing, this won't work, right? Let's try to see that. So if I go to my UiPath studio, right, I'll go here and I have to type something, right? So I'll just simply take an activity called type into. I'll just point it to here and I say that I want to write something on this first name, right? Now one more thing guys, whenever we are doing the UI automation in the browser, we need to have the browser plugin installed, right? We have dedicatedly explained how do you work with browser automation, and if you have challenges, how do you face it, how do you solve it actually, right? So that complete video on browser automation is also available, right? So here I want to tell UiPath that you go simply and type Mukesh in that input field, right? So if I just go here and if I say run this file, right, now this is the page, right? So this is the first page where the first name is located at this location. So the robot should start, and if everything is working fine, if the selector is fine, it should go and it should type Mukesh in this location, right? And it was able to print. But if I click on submit, you would notice that the location change. If I again go and if I say run the file, since the location of the first name has changed, which means that the selector has changed, UiPath won't be able to find that location and it will throw an error saying that, hey, I went to that address and I could not find the first name there, right? And that is why it will break. So we'll just wait. Now the waiting time here is 30 seconds, right? So I hope you guys remember that. As you can see, it says that I'm not able to find, and the error is the selector not found exception. Whatever selector you have specified, I'm not able to find, right? Now in such scenarios, you can use anchor. How does an anchor work? See, whenever we are changing this layout, you would notice that this guy has always this thing with it, right? First name. If I change it, first name is always here. First name is always here, right? So I am telling UiPath, you don't find this thing. You find first name. And wherever you find first name, just type the value immediately after it, right? So here UiPath will go and it will find the first name and will type here, right? So the concept of anchor is simple, right? If the element is not reliable, find something which is most reliable, and which I can see is the first name. So now this activity is failing. So now what I'll tell UiPath is to use an activity which is called anchor base. Drag and drop it here. Okay, I can just delete this. Now the first thing is anchor. What is the anchor? So the anchor for me is first name. So I have to find it, right? So I would simply use something which is called find element. Drag and drop it here. I'm telling UiPath that you just go and find this element. Indicate on screen. And I'm saying that find this first name. So it will always go and find this first name. Once the first name is found, you go and then you type the value. So I say indicate on screen and then I point it to this guy and I just say that type Mukesh. Now, important point in the anchor. The type into activity have nothing. It has got no selector because it is taking reference of this guy. So if I see the actual for the label here, it will just look for the first name. If the first name is found, then it will print, right? So if I just go and if I say, let's change this layout first, right? So I'll change it to here, right? Now if I just go here and I say run the file, you notice that it was able to type here. Let's change this layout to something else, right? Now the first name is here, right? So let's go here and again I say run the file. And it was able to type it in this location as well, right? So that is how the anchor base activity works. Now whenever we talk about anchors, right, the anchor can be on the top, left, right, bottom, or on top, right? All of these options are available in this activity, the anchor base, right? We have a dedicated video, guys, where we are explaining the anchor base activity. So in case you know more about this activity, just watch that video, right? So this video, we are talking about the different methods which are available whenever to do the UI automation. Just a quick recap till this time. We have covered that we can do with the help of selectors. We can do with the help of wildcards, selectors with wildcards. We can introduce something which is called fuzzy selectors. Then we have something which is called anchors, right? So all of these are different techniques which are available to do the UI automation, right? And till this point, all of these are reliable on the selectors, right? When your application is giving you the selectors, Notepad is giving you the selectors, that's why you are able to do the automation, right? So if you see here, all of this thing, HTML of this thing, right? W3 School was giving you the selector, so you are able to do the automation. Notepad is giving you this selector, you are able to do the automation. But what happens if I have an application which I want to do with the help of keyboard and mouse, but that application is not giving me selectors? That application does not generate selectors. Will the UI automation work? The answer is no, right? Because all of this, what we have seen, works on the concept of the selectors. But if selectors are not generated, how I'm going to do the automation? So that is where now we move to the next step, where we have something which is called image automation. Now, image automation is a feature which allow you to extract the elements when the selectors are not available. Okay. We use this mostly to do the citrix, screen scraping wherever the selectors are not working. Okay, it can be used in the virtual machine as well. Now, the image automation does not see the UI element as selector, but they see it as the images. They look for the image, they look for the text, and they give you those images. Which means that if I talk about the execution speed, the image automation would be always slower and it would have more chances of failure, because if the color changes, if the resolution changes, right, your automation would fail. So that is why we always say that always first rely on the UI based activities, selectors based. If they are not working, then only we come to the image automation, right? Now, image based automation, we have got a lot of activities, which is on image appear, on image vanish, find image, image exist, click image, right? All of these are activities which are available, right? Let's see that in action. Let's say this is a browser where I have to click on this submit button, but assuming that this submit button is not giving me selector at all, right? It's not allowed to click on this selector. I'm not getting the selector. This is inside the VM. That is where you are going to use something which is called image automation, right? I'll delete this anchor base, right? Now, I want to click on this, but I do not want to do it with the help of selectors. I want to do with the help of images. So how can I do that? You simply go to your UiPath Studio, go to the activities, and here you just search image. And you would get all the image activities which is available, right? I want to click on image, so I say click image. And now you say that this guy is telling me indicate on screen. So now if I say indicate on screen, you would notice my cursor is a little bit changed, right? It's not able to identify the elements on the screen as the selector was doing, but it is asking me to draw a rectangular around the thing, whatever I want to do, right? So I want to click on this submit. So I just draw a rectangle on this image like this. And you would see actually the actual image is captured. Now when I run this automation, what would happen? UiPath Studio will go and it will take this image, it will compare this image to this complete screen, and then it will try to click on that. Does it work? Let's see that in action. I'll go and I say run the file. Okay, if the page changes, you should see this Mukesh omitting from here and a new layout, right? The robot had started, and as you can see, something happened, but it was not able to give me the correct result, right? Let's try that again. I'll just go here and I'll say run the file. Okay, so this is the challenges we actually face, right? Now this time it worked. I think last time the browser was in a minimized mode, right? So that's why the image automation has more chances of getting failed. But this does not mean that you should not use image automation. You should use image automation only if the selectors are not working or as a fallback. What do you mean by fallback, right? Now this is important, guys. Whenever we are doing any automation, right, what happens if the selector fails? If the selector failed for this submit button? You can always use these approaches as a fallback mechanism. If the approach 1 breaks, do the approach 2. If the approach 2 breaks, do the approach 3, like that, right? But the problem with image automation, it looks for the image 1-to-1 match. Tomorrow, if this website changes the color, if changes the font, right, your automation will break. If you go to the properties, you have some settings which are available here, which are in terms of the images, right? What is the accuracy you want? 0.8 means it is looking for an 80% match, right? 1 means 100% exactly match, right? So this number again define how do you want that matching to be accurate. Okay, so this is about the image automation and should be used only when the selectors and the UI automation activities are not working, right? So activities available, click image, hover image, right? As the name suggests, find image, image exist, on image appear, on image vanish, right? So these are all the activities which are available for image automation, right? This has always a risk of breaking, but these activities can be always used as a fallback mechanism. And once you don't have anything, you simply go and use the image activities. Okay. I would like to take a pause here and tell you guys that all of this, whatever we have seen on the screen, right, these are the different approaches. This is applicable to the automations which we are running on the local computer, right? So if Mukesh has computer 1, the robot is also working on the same computer, right? As you can see, I am working on this computer. My robot is also working on this computer. So this is a kind of a local automation for me. Sometimes whenever you are writing automation, you have to deal with something which is called virtual machine. Now, what exactly is a virtual machine? A virtual machine is something which is hosted at a different location. It is available at the server. There is a physical host, and then you have VM1, VM2 and VM3. These are the different setups, right? So this host is the actual computer. The robot is not working here, but the robot is working on the VM, right? Now if I do an UI automation, it won't work, right? Because this is just an image. This is nothing but your remote desktop you might be using for your company whenever you log in, right? But if the robot is available inside the remote machine, that is a local automation. If it is not available, then it becomes a virtual machine automation, right? But now if I have to do a virtual automation, selectors won't be generated for me. Then the option left is the image automation. What are the challenges? Even a minor change in the UI would break your automation. The image matching algorithm is prone to error because the source image has background, size, font, color. Anything whichever change can break your automation. Resolution of virtual machine, right? It's a VM. So today I am getting a very good clarity. My images are clear. Tomorrow the resolution changes. My images are blur. My automation break, right? So that is why whenever we are doing a virtual machine automation, image is used, but it comes with these challenges. I told you the VM. I told you the challenge. Now, what is the solution? The solution is computer vision, right? Computer vision is a feature which allows the robot which is working on my computer to get the selector even from the virtual machine. It is an algorithm that enables human-like recognition of interfaces with the help of AI, OCR, text fuzzy, anchoring system. All of this work together and give you something which is called computer vision. It does not require you to install anything on your local computer, right? You can build applications which are supported by Silverlight, Frame, Flash or VMs with the help of computer vision, right? But this should be always used when it is on the third party interface, or you are doing some application where you don't want to use the image, but you want to do this automation. That is the place we use the computer vision activities. On the right hand side, you have all the activities which are available. CV screen scope, CV click, element exist, highlight, hover, CV. Where I say CV, this means computer vision, right? Now to work with CV, you need to remember that CV is a computer vision, which means that you need to use the AI, OCR and all of these technologies supported by UiPath. How would you get it? How does the CV work? You need to first get an API key for the CV. Is it available in my cloud free version? The answer is yes. You have the computer vision available in your free version of the community edition as well, right? You simply have to go to the cloud.uipath.com, go to the licenses. In the admin section, you would have robot and services, and here you would have something which is the computer vision. So this is your key, right? N4, N1, this is my key. You would have a different key for you, right? So this is your key, which you have to just copy from here, use it in the computer vision, and your robots would be able to do the computer vision automation, right? I have a complete playlist where I am explaining all of the computer vision techniques in a step-by-step manner. What do you mean by computer vision? What is caching strategy? How do you read tabular data? How do you even record this, right? This dedicated playlist is talking only about the virtual machine automation. The link of this playlist again is available in the description. Okay, so this was the last thing which I wanted to discuss today. So today in this video, we have seen that I have got a lot of targeting methods available. Selectors, I can use wildcards, I can use anchor base, I can use fuzzy selector, I can use image, and I can use computer visions. All of these are available for you to do the user interface automation. But the idea is you need to use the one which closely relates to you, right? So for example, if I have an application and that is giving me selectors, I am getting very good selector, right? There is no point in using image automation. If my application is stable, if my top window, everything is stable, there is no point in using the fuzzy selectors, right? Avoid using unnecessary target methods and approaches. So for that, you need to understand that what exactly are the method and when to use what, right? So that was the agenda of this video, where we wanted to discuss about the targeting methods and the different approaches. I hope now you at least got an idea that how are the different approaches which are available and what are the different methods, right? All the playlist, all the links, whatever we have discussed are available in the description for your references. With that, let's have a quick recap. We know that UI automation refers to the process of automating and interacting with the user interfaces. There are several approaches which are available to automate. Choose the one which suits best for you, and others you can always use as the fallback or in the exception scenarios, right? Whenever you got some exception scenarios, you can use the other targeting method as the fallback mechanism. All the other videos on selectors, computer vision, anchors, everything is available in the description for your reference. Okay, so that is all for this video. I would like to wrap this video here. Thank you for watching. I hope this was insightful. If you have any more questions, any more doubts, feel free to write me in the comments, or you can also drop me an email as well. My email ID is available in the description. I would appreciate your feedback on this video, and we would wrap. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please do subscribe to the channel, and happy automation.